Good morning, everyone. It's Rabbi Akiva Males, and I hope that you're well. Today is Chol Hamoed. It's Friday. It is April 2nd. We're getting ready for the final days of Pesach. It's going to be Shabbos, as well as the 7th and 8th days of Pesach. And I want to share a Dvar Torah with you. We're going to read on Shvi Shel Pesach, the 7th day of Pesach, about Yetzias Mitzrayim in Parshas B'Shalach, and we're going to read about Kriyas Yamsuf. It's important that we remember one of the final acts that Bnei Yisrael did when they left Mitzrayim was to ask the Egyptians to enrich them, to really give them all sorts of gold and silver and precious clothing and items. The Pasuk tells us, Bnei Yisrael asu kidvar Moshe. Bnei Yisrael did exactly what Moshe asked of them, Vayishalim Mitzrayim klei kesef v'klei zavu smalos. And they asked the Egyptians to give them gold, silver, and fine clothing. Vashem nasan eschein am b'nei Mitzrayim vayashilum. And Hashem gave favor into the eyes of the Egyptians, how they thought about Bnei Yisrael, and they gave them these items, Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim. And they totally emptied Mitzrayim, Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim. That's what the Pasuk says. Cryptic word, Vayinatzlu. So the Gemara in Brachos says as follows. What does it mean, Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim, that they emptied out Egypt? What's that word, Vayinatzlu? So it's two opinions. Amar Rav Ami taught, Melamed shasu kemitzuda she'en ba dagan. They made it like a trap. A mitzuda is a trap. Shembo dagan, that has no grain in it. It has no bait, anything to lure in any birds or animals. That's how they left Mitzrayim, like a trap with no bait. It comes along Reish Lakish, and he says, Reish Lakish Amar, asu kemitzula she'en ba dagim. They transformed Mitzrayim into mitzula, I mean the depths of the sea that has no fish in it. The deeper you go into the sea, there is no fish. And that's how they emptied out Mitzrayim of all of these fine items, the gold, the silver, and the clothing. They left it like the depths of the sea where you won't find any fish. What is the deeper meaning of this? What does it mean they left Mitzrayim like a trap that didn't have any bait, or they left it like the depths of the sea that didn't have any fish? So you'll find that there are many Mefarshim that talk about this. And I saw a beautiful pshat from Rav Avram Yitzchak HaKohen Cook. Rav Kook, in his parish, in his commentary to the Agadata sections of the Gemara, he has such a beautiful understanding of what is it that Chazal, what was it that Rav Ami and Reish Lakish were saying here? And he has the following idea. The Torah tells us in several places, specifically in Sefer Devarim, that Hashem wanted to make it very clear that Bnei Yisrael had no business ever returning to Mitzrayim again. Very, very clear. You'll see this in Sefer Devarim, in Parsha Shoftim. Hashem says, the Pasuk says, Vashem amar lachem lo sosifun lo shuv b'derech hazaod. Hashem never wanted us to go back to Mitzrayim. And why was that so important? Because we had lived there for hundreds of years, and there was obviously parts and parcel of Egyptian culture that was alluring, and that was tempting to Bnei Yisrael to go back there. And Hashem wanted to make it very clear that we should never return there. So Rav Kook says as follows, that when we left Mitzrayim, Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim, they emptied it out. Comes along Rav Ami and he says we left it like a mitzuda shemba dagan. We left it like a trap that had no grain in it. By despoiling the Egyptians, by taking so much of their wealth, we left the nation of Egypt in a devastating state. We left it poverty-stricken. And that was the final impression that it made on Bnei Yisrael. When they looked over their shoulders as they were leaving, they saw this great crisis. They saw a depression, economic depression. And that final impression that was made on Bnei Yisrael was like, why would I ever want to go back there? That's a poor, broken down place. There's no wealth there. And what does Reish Lakish mean when he says that they left it like a mitzula shembo dagam, like they left it like the depths of the sea that didn't have any fish? So Rav Kook says a similar idea, is that part of what made Egypt so alluring wasn't just the wealth, it was the culture, it was the arts, it was the lifestyle, everything that was there. And that attracts others. Fish are attracted to other fish. That's something all fishermen know. So what did Hashem say? I'm leaving it. We're going to empty Mitzrayim, leave it like a mitzula shembo dagim. It's going to be left like the depths of the sea that doesn't have any fish. There's nothing attractive anymore. There's nothing about the culture. It's so devastated, Egypt, by the time that you left. When you look over the shoulder, there's nothing there that would be attracting to you that you would want to return. And this was all part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan to leave Egypt in such a state that Bnei Yisrael would not want to return there. Beautiful pshat that Rav Kook has to explain these two opinions in the Gemara. And I think what's so important about what Rav Kook is saying is that he's making the point that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu realizes, the final impressions make the greatest impression. That final image, what would Bnei Yisrael see when they look over their shoulder and see Mitzrayim? If they see it devastated, they see it economically ruined, that there's no culture there, that parting impression would leave the most lasting impression on Bnei Israel. They wouldn't remember what it was like for hundreds of years prior to that, when it was in its zenith, when it was in its glory, when it had riches, when it had culture. That's not what they would remember. They would remember that parting snapshot that they took of Mitzrayim. And that was why it was so important to leave it by Natzlu, absolutely emptied out. So the final shot, the final picture that Bnei Israel had of Mitzrayim was a place of economic and cultural devastation. All part of Hashem's plan to limit the pull of ever going back to Mitzrayim. I think this is such a great lesson, and it reminds us of final impressions and how important they are and the role that they play in our lives. And I think this is a great message as we approach the final days of Pesach. I hope that each and every one of us have celebrated a beautiful Yom Tov until now. I'm sure that we have, but we can't we can't just let our guard down now. We have to make certain that the final days of Pesach, how we leave Pesach, is besimcha, is happy, and that we're going to celebrate these last days of Yom Tov to its fullest. We're not going to just rely on the fact that we had a great Pesach until now. We're going to do everything we can to sing Zmiros, to rejoice, to be happy on these final days of Yom Tov. Because as Rav Kook pointed out to us, how he explained the Gemara, how we leave a scenario, how we leave a situation, those parting pictures that we take leave the strongest impression on us. And it's so crucial that we leave Pesach in a fashion that'll energize us, give us the shot of ruchnius that we need to take on all that lies ahead in the year that's ahead of us. It's so important that our memories of Pesach be strong, that they be happy, that they be filled with simcha. So I urge each and every one of us, let's make the most of these last days of Yom Tov. Let's be mesameach, let's be happy, let's sing, let's do the best that we can to rejoice and to celebrate. And our being happy this Pesach will energize our Yom Tov experience. It'll be what we remember, and that'll give us the strength that we need to march ahead into the year ahead of us. Have a good Shabbos, a good Yom Tov, everyone, and the wonderful last days of Pesach.